Hello, welcome to the Wellness Lab podcast, where we strive to provide valuable insights, information that will overall contribute to your wellness. It is sponsored by 15 Element AI, and today we have the pleasure to have Nelson Borges from Capillary Wave Community, and we will dive into the conversation on how it all started, what brought you to where you are today, or how what was the thought behind it? How did you get to this place or to support others, specifically regarding mental health? And I know it all started with a focus or with a lens on men. I know it has evolved as well, and you are reaching other individuals, which is amazing. So, thanks again for your time today, Nelson. Happy to have you here and excited to have a conversation with you. And also, we'll be sharing below all the links to your socials, websites. So anyone interested to learn more, to follow you or reach out to you, they will have all the information below. Okay, so I'll pass it over to you just to learn what got you to create this community to support individuals, specifically men, and then how it has evolved through time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. For me, my story, well, it's a lifelong story, but more recently in 2022, just driving home from the grocery store, I had my first ever panic attack while I was driving, and not knowing what it was, it felt like a heart attack. Made my way home. A few things happened there, and I said, no, no, I got to go to the hospital. Spent the day in the hospital. It was the tail end of COVID, so people weren't allowed in with you. Being in the hospital and giving wave after wave of anxiety and panic attack, not knowing still what it was, I thought I was going to die alone in the hospital, which was nobody wants to do that. So it was a very long day. In the end, the doctors were great. They sent me home. They're like, "There's nothing medically wrong with you. It was probably just a really good panic attack." So, and then I was off work for about 5 months because I was just getting daily attacks, and I felt like I was going crazy. I've played sports my whole life. I've had broken bones and all that. I would take all the broken bones over what I was going through mentally. When I finally kind of hit my rock bottom, um, I've never cried so much in my life, and just saying, okay, this can't be the rest of my life. I was 49 at the time, and all the kids were now out of the house and stuff. So, you're thinking you're on the back nine of life, and empty nesting, and then all of a sudden this thing hits you. So when I hit my rock bottom, I just made a post. I remember it was June. It was Men's Mental Health Month. And I just put a post out there on my Facebook to say, hey, like, this is what I've been going through, and it's just terrible. And an amazing amount of support. And then someone recommended a book. It was called From Panic to Power. I read that book in 2 days, and it really changed the trajectory of my life, um, because it convinced me. It was like I was writing the book. So I'm like, okay, this is what I have. So that really helped me convince myself, because I didn't believe any of the doctors, because I went to 12 different clinics just trying to find one person that says, hey, this is what's going on. Um, so then that started, I went back to work, maybe a little bit too soon. I was in the construction industry, so, the very macho kind of guys. And one promise I made to myself was I wasn't going to I wasn't going to keep anything in. Like, I wasn't going to be embarrassed. I wasn't going to be ashamed, which is all these emotions you go through in the journey. So if someone asks me, I'm going to tell them. And sure enough, like, all the men that I was working with, they're like, Nelson, where have you been? And so I would tell them. And 9 out of 10 of those men would close the door and share a story with me about what they went through. So right there, I was like, wow, like, talking's good. My faith is a big part of my life, and spiritual health is one of the big things in one's overall health. And spiritual could mean whatever it means to that person. For me, it's my faith. I went to church. There was like a little group that met every Tuesday nights, and I'm like, I'm gonna go, and I went, and I liked it. It was nice, just talking about life. So then I looked for men's mental health support groups, and there wasn't anything really. A few virtual ones from somewhere in the States. Um, And I said, okay, like, and whatever there was felt institutional or clinical. And I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to be, normal kind of thing, just average guy. So I put out another ad, not an ad, I put out a thing on Facebook, and we had 5 guys come out to our first meeting. And then word started to spread. So we became a registered charity at the end of 2024. Last year was our first full year. So it's basically we run support groups twice a month in person and twice a week in person and once virtually each week. And word kept spreading. We got a lot of support from the community. So as of recording today, we're closing in on 400 men that I've registered. We have over 70 men going through therapy for the first time. So I created a team. Like when I was creating this, I was like, okay, like I wonder what I always related to a race car. So a car that goes into the race and into the pit stop, it's not just one person that's changing the tires and the gas, it's a team. So what does a team look like for men's mental health? And so I went about creating this team. So we've got a variety of therapists that offer a variety of modalities. We have employment services, family law support, um, overall well-being, and stuff. So it's when we relate back to that car, here's what I know now is that each tire, so one tire represents your physical health, the next tire is emotional, we got spiritual, and then we got physical health. And if one of those tires is down, that's going to affect your engine, which is your mental health. So everything that we do at Capillary revolves around that holistic health. So it's not just one thing that could affect someone, right? Um, like, yeah, like unfortunately, someone who gets diagnosed with cancer, that's part of their physical health. So of course that's going to affect their mental health. So when we approach things from a holistic kind of lens, it opens a lot of eyes and ears to the men that are coming because most of them have not been in the support group before. Most men, it's amazing that they even come because 70% of men that are struggling don't go for help. So the guys that we do have coming through, they listen, they put in the work. We have workshops, guest speakers, all sorts of things. So that's kind of the quicker version of where we are today and what led up to it.
Thank you, Nelson. And yeah, as you mentioned, I know since COVID, lots of mental health issues probably they skyrocketed in a way, right? Because we were isolated and many things happened that triggered things internally. And I find kind of the silver lining, I figure it helped for us to push into okay, there's something that we need to focus on our overall wellness. In my case, I was working 9 to 5, having little kids and whatnot, and I realized like, is this what I want to do in life, or just do my thing, have flexibility, work-life balance, be productive, feel proud of what I do, but also help others, right? So it's really interesting to learn how we have evolved. Lots of people have done kind of things differently or gone a different route, which is good to know, and overall create this awareness about overall health, wellness, as you said, which is interesting, specifically for mental health. And as you said, maybe for men, there's a big gap. I find for kids, maybe even women, it's easier to think like, oh, the mental health, and there's lots of probably community resources and places to go to. But as well for men, I think there's like a taboo, like men have to be tough. They cannot show their feelings. They will just carry on things and they'll be fine. And as you say, everyone, men, women, whoever, like they need support. They need to have these connection with others, a way to communicate, and probably just sometimes is bringing out what's going on and getting that support from others. So it's really great to hear how you've been supporting the community and how it's been growing.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a gap. Us men, we were raised like I guess Gen X is what they label me. Um, I'm a first generation Canadian. My parents immigrated from Portugal. So you have a lot of cultural stigmas when it comes to men's mental health. I know I had a lot of uncles and family members that became alcoholics, unfortunately. Um, None of them ever talked about mental health. There was never that generation to generation of teaching, more like watching in silence, you know. And then unfortunately, that transitions to the next generation of men, that don't talk about their feelings and stuff. And that's all we're doing is just talking about how we feel. It's not a big deal. Maybe the situations, of course, those could be big deals like financial loss or what have you, for sure. But just talking starts the healing, and for some it's requires more talking and more action and so forth. But there's the one thing that I'm very proud of about the organization is, we just don't hand out pamphlets and say, hey, read this and good luck. We jump in the hole with the guys and we say, we listen without judgment, we support, and we're like, hey, like, I'll show you the way out, because there is a way out, that is positive. Unfortunately, men represent 75% of all suicides are adult men. Um, that is a shocking and real statistic. We have lost 0 men to suicide that have come through Capillary. Um, and I think it's just the community that we've created, and the bond with the guys there. We're always getting new guys coming to the table, which is great. We have guys that, when they first started coming, they couldn't even talk. We have a box of tissues on our table, and the guy will always say, sorry, I'm going to cry. And we're like, hey, there's no such thing as sorry here. So everyone's used that box of tissues. But that said, like, we've got a lot of great success stories, and the guys kind of come back every so often just for a tune up or just to say hi, which is awesome too. So, yeah, a lot of stigmas, a lot of gaps in supporting. When you're looking at men's mental health funding specifically, if you can tell me where it is, please. I can find support for uh, kids, teenagers, women. I can't. Finding support specifically for men is hard. But we've gotten a couple of different grants lately, which has really boosted our spirits. More to do with seniors, but a lot of the men in our so we have the range goes from 30 to 60s. The guys that come to our group, average age is probably mid 40s, that kind of thing. So seniors, apparently seniors are now 55. Um, so we have a lot of these older guys that are coming in, which is awesome, which is great.
Thank you. And one of the things that might be hard for someone, specifically for men, as we have discussed, is to probably take the step. Sometimes I think maybe if I do it virtual or just type in a chat, I'll be better off rather than coming to a support group. But also, I think you might be the perfect person to tell me why a support group will help them in their healing, in getting these support connection community, and how can they take this first step?
Yeah. So in the analogy of taking the first step, I'll say, um, the people that have worn casts. So if you break your leg or you break your arm, you wear a cast for 6 weeks, and you have to adjust sleeping, and you have to adjust taking a shower or any of that kind of stuff. But the day that you go into the doctor's office and they cut that cast off, boom, you have a weight that's taken off physically, right? So metaphorically, the guys who come to the table are carrying weights. And as soon as you start talking, it's like you're just dumping the weight. It's not group therapy that we're doing. We're not there to fix anything. We're just there to provide, to listen and to support. And a lot of guys that have gone through a similar situation will then say, hey, like, I went through that. This is what I did, and it helped me. We don't come from a place of you should do this or you should do that. So just talking starts the healing, because now you're sharing the load with other people and you're putting it on the table. Um, what stops men from taking that spot? Oh, I wish I had that magic answer. I think it's just stubbornness in the end. And if we're real, It's excuses. It's excuse making. I'll start next week. I'll do it there. I'll be okay. I'm feeling better today. And they're in that washing machine kind of effect. Um, but once they do take that first step, most men come back the following week and so forth. So that's just one element of kind of getting out of your hole or your rut or getting unstuck, is coming to the table and sharing it with other people. So the first step of reaching out is very important, absolutely. The second step, I swear it's even harder. It's like, okay, now what? Now I've reached out to Nelson or to a support. Now I got to go, and it's pushing yourself to go, right? So some people need to be pushed, some people need to be pulled, um, but we're here for everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Nelson. And talking about analogies and things that will come really neat into the conversation, I remember in the past, maybe months ago or even a year ago, talking to you, I learned why you have this drop falling and why it creates this specific message and how the ripple effect can support the community or others, right? Like one single thing might create this ripple effect that will create a positive impact in this case. So I'm not sure if you want to elaborate or talk about it, but I really liked that when we were talking.
Yeah, so that's the name of our organization, Capillary Wave, which literally means the ripple effect in water. And oftentimes when we apply for grants, the question is how many people will be impacted by your program? And that's a magical question because, well, you have the one person, let's just say it's the man, father, and so forth. So he gets healthier. Well, if he's healthier, then chances are the family unit is healthier or better. Chances are that person improves his work and his productivity at work, and that feels better. So now the ripple effect is family, friends, coworkers. So how much impact does one person have? Tons, tons. So
Thank you. And sometimes you don't even know, but you can impact others without even knowing, right? On how things can trickle down and how they work. So glad to know and also to understand better your work,
yeah.
how you support the community. We didn't highlight; it's going to be in our comments below. But well, the community is based in Burlington, Ontario, just to provide that insights and information. And before we have to close our conversation, which has been great, is there anything that you would like to provide, probably a message, mantra, anything that will help others to really go through a tough day?
Mm. Oh, great question too. Um, I think if I'll use this analogy to kind of sum up because it's a short question, but it's a big question. Um, if I use this one, if I were to give you $10,000 cash today and I pass that envelope to you, I said, here you go. Or I can come back in a month and every day I'm going to send you a penny, but I'm going to double that penny every single day for a month. And then I'll come back and give you that money in cash. Which one would you prefer? Of course, some people say I'll take the money right now. But if you double a penny every day for 30 days, you're going to be over $5 million by the end of the month. Now, what happens is it's a very slow kind of progress, right? And then all of a sudden, compound interest or compound effect takes place and it just skyrockets. So, little micro habits improving every single day. So, no hitting that snooze on your alarm clock, washing your face first thing in the morning, having like setting up your morning so that without scrolling, without going on time wasters, right? We all have, we all talk about time management, but maybe we should look at energy management. And most of us have a lot of energy the first 2 hours of that morning, right? And if you just spend it doom scrolling and you're just wasting your tank before you even start your day at work or wherever at school, wherever you're going, so it's setting up your future self, and that is by having routines in the morning, just little ones that build up over time. And after a month of doing these little things, you'll see a vast improvement. You can only improve. So, and at the end, it's just like the Nike says, just do it. Just do it. So
Amazing. Thanks, Nelson. I like that. And well, also thanks for sharing your personal story. That helps as well for anyone listening to know, like, okay, that happened to Nelson. I can do it. Like you've been uh, through that situation. So thanks for sharing your story. And well, we'll be in touch. Thanks for your time, and we'll keep in touch and following what Capillary Wave Community achieves and how they support the community.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.